Hi, it's Crystal here. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to talk to you about an experience I had yesterday because it was something that was really special to me. So I was driving along and it was probably mid-afternoon and I was just driving across some lovely country fields. And as I was driving along, the hills were kind of undulating, and as I got to the top of one of the hills, I noticed some movement coming from the distance. What I thought was a herd of wild horses running really, really fast across the fields. And they looked like they were running towards the road that I was driving along on. And then I thought it was really strange, and then I stopped to look, and then I realised that actually they were deer. And actually, they were running so fast. I've never seen deer run like that in my life, ever. And they were running so fast across the fields, just a whole long line of them. There was a stag and there were some does. And yeah, it was really amazing to see. And as I was driving, there was nobody else on the road either. It was a really remote country road, so I was just struck that nobody else could see what was going on, and it was just an experience that I was experiencing on my own with the deer, obviously. But it was gorgeous because the sun was really bright and it was just perfect. It was such a tranquil scene. And yeah, so I was really impressed with how fast they were running. And as they were running, I noticed that they were coming towards the road that I was driving along. So then, of course, because they're at this time of year in the UK, there are loads of signs on the roads saying that, you should be really cautious because there are deer likely to jump in front of the car. You've got to be really careful driving around country roads, especially. And so I was really worried that they were just going to run into my path. So I slowed down, fully expecting to start jumping over the road and running in front of the car. And so I slowed right down. But as the deer actually got to the side, to the edge of the field and actually approached the road, the one in the front, the stag, stopped and turned round, and then all the other deer just suddenly stopped as well, and they all stopped in a big group. And he'd obviously recognised the road and decided that there was a barrier there, and they could easily have run across the road. They could have easily, there was no high hedge or anything in their way, but they got to the edge of the road and they just made the decision to stop, which is probably a really good decision because cars really hair along roads all the time and they just don't expect deer to jump out in front of them, so it's really dangerous for everybody involved, especially the deer. So they all just stopped, and it was funny because I could see their thought process. They all seemed to stand around, and it was almost like they were talking to each other, like having a conference and talking about what the options were. And eventually the lead stag decided that they were going to change direction. And so he started leading them off in a different direction. So they started running alongside the road and they started running again really, really fast. And I noticed also with them that something that really stood out was a white deer that I've never seen before. I've never seen a white deer, and she really stood out amongst them. And it was just the most magical sight. And I was thinking about, what that meant, if anything, and what that left me with. It was just a real sense of, there's something about deer for me that they're just so, they seem so intuitive. I started to think about what the qualities the deer actually bring up for me when I think about what the qualities of a deer are. So if you think about if a deer's like a totem animal or a spirit guide, something like that, I think of deer as being very highly sensitive and having a real sense of intuition. You can never seem to get near them. If you see them in a forest, I don't know if you've ever tried, you start to edge towards them. I mean, they see or hear or sense you coming from a really long way away. There's something quite mysterious about them as well because they're so evasive. And so I really definitely think of them as very sensitive creatures. But also as a spirit animal, they're said to have the power to deal with challenges with grace. And that's exactly what I saw. They came across a challenge in their path. They just decided amongst themselves to somehow communicate what they were going to do about it, and they just changed direction and carried on running. And there was a real determination in them because they were running so fast, so they were so determined. But there was a grace in that as well, and even though they were determined, there was something so gentle about them that I can't really put my finger on, really. But they're very vigilant, they're moving very, very quickly, they're trusting their instincts, they were changing course to get out of a difficult, potentially dangerous situation. And I think, that's really left me with a lot to reflect on, because I think that we can really take some of those lessons for ourselves because, I've spoken about this before, how we really seem to be out of touch with our intuition somehow, and that when we go against our intuition, it can have quite disastrous consequences for us. But I think we can really trust our gut and really learn to tap into our instinct and actually rise to challenges and meet those challenges with grace when we come across those challenges in our relationships. So if you imagine you and your partner being dear and running across the field together with that determination, running towards your goal, going about your journey, having that determination with that grace, but actually hitting an obstacle, and rather than going against your intuition and putting yourself in danger of the relationship becoming more fragile and more and more precarious, that you actually just change course, that you decide together with your partner, you know, we've hit a challenge, we've hit an obstacle, let's change direction, and then moving together to change course and to actually meet that challenge and actually come up with a solution together and continue on your journey on an altered course. And I just think in relationships, if we actually approached conflict in the same way that a deer would approach a challenge or an obstacle, we meet conflict with grace, with power, with determination, but gentleness, and being guided by our intuition or our emotions to actually collaborate effectively and actually move together. I think that can really enhance our relationships. I think it can strengthen our bond. So I really want to leave that with you. So next time you and your partner come across a challenge in your relationship or a source of conflict, just try and think about what a deer would do and how can you move around that challenge or that obstacle gracefully, going with your intuition, using collaboration, using gentleness. So that's what I want to leave you with. And if you'd like any more guidance on exactly how to do that, then come to my website, www.crystalwoodbridge.com. That's KRYSTAL.com. And there I've got a Compassionate Conflict for Couples e-course, which will tell you exactly how to meet conflict in a compassionate way and how to negotiate those obstacles gracefully and in a way that really does strengthen your bond rather than driving you further apart, so that you can actually manage conflict in a way that won't lead to arguments. So if you want more information, come to my website, www.crystalwoodbridge.com, and take care for now. Bye.